I'm proud to be an American. With that being said, there are probably nations on this planet that maybe it's not as easy to be proud of the nation that you're part of. And so what I'm trying to sort out is, what are some of those nations where it's just not legitimate if someone is singing their own national anthem and you're like, really, you're proud to be from there? Because like, for example, North Korea, we all know that they're brainwashed. We all know that if people in North Korea don't basically worship the king and worship their country, that they can go to labor camps, that they can be killed, and all this bad stuff that can happen. So by default, they're very patriotic, right? But what are countries like that where, because like here in America, like there's a certain shame involved if you imply that you're not proud to be an American. And I made a video where I talked about that guy at the Nashville baseball game where he went to the Asian people who didn't know that you're supposed to take your hat off during the national anthem. And instead of he himself pledging allegiance and taking it all in during the national anthem, instead he spent his time, you know, basically wagging his finger at Asian people who didn't know that that's what you're supposed to do. So there's definitely this sense of shame if you imply that you're not proud or patriotic as an American. You know, and it's interesting because for me, I feel I'm definitely proud to be an American, but at the same time, I'm wide-eyed and open-minded. I'd point to my ears just for my mind. But for example, I'm very in tune with things like this. 1984, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. So many people in America hear that song and they think, man, this is a rockin' patriotic tune. And it was even Reagan, he used that song in the late 80s, and Bruce Springsteen was like, no, you can't use my song because that's not what this song is. So if you haven't, go ahead right now, Google the lyrics of Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen. And what you're gonna realize is it's a song that's actually criticizing America's involvement in the Vietnam War and what happened once those soldiers came back. One of, maybe, I guess, yeah, by default, my favorite war movie is Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise, where it shows what happened to a soldier when he came back from Vietnam and wasn't celebrated like he thought he would be. And I love that movie. So it's interesting because in Born in the USA, you hear Bruce Springsteen talk about how his job was to go over there and kill the yellow man. Now, I know you couldn't record that song today without it being perceived as racist, but that was the whole point. The whole point is Americans were taught to believe, and I think arguably still are, that it's our duty to leave our own land here in America and go to other parts of the world and fight wars there. And we're going to fight people that have different skin colors because that makes it easy for us to know who the enemy is, or different religions, or different political beliefs. Like, you know, in the Cold War, the whole concept of communism and all these things. And there was an episode of Black Mirror about this, where they trained the American soldiers. They had this chip in their brain that made them see the enemy as these like zombies, like that. But the problem was they were actually more of like Russian descent, so they looked like Americans for the most part. But the Americans needed to believe that these people were truly monsters. So the military put this chip in their brain or whatever to make them, the Russian or whoever they were fighting, this vague enemy that were mainly Caucasian, to look like they were. And it's that same concept that goes back to Go and Kill the Yellow Man that Bruce Springsteen said in his song. It wasn't a patriotic song. It was criticizing our involvement in the war. And similarly, in 1991, Metallica, the Black Album, they have a song called Don't Tread on Me. And even the cover of the Black Album has a slight little image of a snake that looks like the flag that we have for the military. Don't tread on me, you know. When you listen to that song, you can hear it two different ways. You can think, yeah, this is like a patriotic, pro-military song, Metallica, yeah. Or you can see the subtlety in certain lines where he talks about to secure freedom here in America is to have surveillance on the rest of the world. So when you're in tune, you're like, oh, that's not necessarily particularly pro-military. And it goes back to that concept of that's what we do as Americans in our military, is we police the rest of the world and we're keeping the peace by going to other places and fighting wars. And we're the policemen of the world, and that's what we do. So you can hear criticism in songs like that, or you can hear the same song and think, oh yeah, military, that's patriotic. So it's interesting because I'm absolutely proud to be an American. But at the same time, I can understand the criticism that people from across the world see us, you know? And so I can see the irony in that here I am saying I'm proud to be an American, and then people are watching my channel and say, yeah, but Nick, your nation did you a disservice by not teaching you world geography. You know so little about world geography. And so how can you be proud of a country who didn't do a better job of teaching you about world geography? You know, because I get those comments daily. I just make it part of my identity at this point on this channel. So that I'm interested in your comments, what you have to say about this concept of it's a good thing to be patriotic, but it can be to a fault at some point when you're so blinded by patriotism that you start to not see other things that are going on, like maybe, I don't know, people in our own nation here in America that don't have enough food to eat. And we're spending millions of dollars to go fight wars that ultimately they're over there, they're across the ocean. Remember, they have a different skin color, different religion, different political beliefs. We're fighting often over political beliefs, as was the case with Vietnam, right? Communism still, right? So I'm just fascinated by this. I mean, in the same way that Born on the 4th of July is probably my favorite war movie. So much to sort out. And I want to know your thoughts on that right here.